On December 30th, 1976, a camper from Lake Worth stumbled upon the scattered bones of a young female in a heavily wooded area on Grassy Key, Monroe County, Florida. The location, known as the Gaines Rock Pit, at the 55.5-mile marker along US Highway 1, was frequented by campers and partygoers. While exploring the area with a friend, the camper encountered a man described as having a, quote, hippie-type appearance, who offered to reveal a human skeleton for a mere quarter. Intrigued, the camper not only recalled the discovery's location, but also volunteered to guide officers back to the Keys to pinpoint the precise spot. The remains were found amidst Spanish bayonet plants obscured by moss, leaves, and vines. The medical examiner, Dr. A.J. Fernandez, concluded that Jane Doe had been at the location for at least a few months prior to her discovery. Upon documenting the bones and their original position, Dr. Fernandez observed no signs of a violent demise, no gunshot wounds, no knife lacerations, and no fractures consistent with trauma. Although the cause of death remains inconclusive, foul play is suspected in Jane Doe's case. At the time of discovery, Jane Doe was estimated to be between 17 and 19 years old, standing approximately 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighing around 100 to 120 pounds. She had reddish brown hair, and near the remains was a black t-shirt featuring a Tiffany lamp rhinestone design, likely belonging to the victim. Detective Richard Rick Roth, the first responder to the scene, observed that the shirt had been knotted, suggesting it may have been used as a blindfold, as strands of the victim's hair were found within the knot. To aid in her identification, a forensic artist from the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children created a digital facial reconstruction of Jane Doe based on an original sketch. The victim's dental records were meticulously entered into several national databases for comparison, yet no matches were found. As a result, the case swiftly grew cold, and Jane Doe's remains were carefully stored in a box for safekeeping, awaiting the day when identification could finally be achieved. In 2001, the mother of another missing girl raised suspicions to Florida law enforcement that Jane Doe could be her daughter, who disappeared in 1974. However, after conducting comparisons of mitochondrial DNA with the assistance of the FBI, it was concluded that Jane Doe was not her child. Nevertheless, the mitochondrial DNA obtained from Jane Doe was subsequently added to the FBI's new mitochondrial DNA missing person database, with the hope that it might facilitate a match in the future. It wasn't until April of 2004 that the remains discovered on Grassy Key were conclusively identified as belonging to 15-year-old Stephanie Sempell, thanks to advancements in DNA technology. DNA samples extracted from the thigh and rib bones of Jane Doe were compared to those of Stephanie's mother, Dorothy Apple, resulting in a positive match. This breakthrough was facilitated with the assistance of the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, also known as NCMEC, who aligned Stephanie's missing person report and photograph with Jane Doe's description and facial reconstruction. The match was further verified through Quantico's mitochondrial DNA missing person database. Stephanie Sempell was born on November 8, 1960, in Boca Raton, Palm Beach, Florida, and was part of a large family with 6 sisters and 1 brother. They resided in a waterfront residence in Boca Raton. Described by her sister as a free spirit, Stephanie had a penchant for spontaneous adventures with friends, sometimes venturing as far as California. During one such escapade, she acquired a tattoo of a peacock on the underside of her arm. In the summer months, Stephanie often lent a hand at a family-owned hardware store in Queens, New York, to earn some extra money. Her younger sister fondly remembered her. She grew up fast, she had a big heart, and she trusted everybody. Stephanie had a history of running away, and in March 1976, it seemed she had done so once again. At 15 years old, she informed her mother that she planned to spend a couple of days with friends in Key West, departing with a male companion. However, she never returned as expected that day. Concern deepened as days passed without any communication from Stephanie. Consequently, her parents, Dorothy and Richard, who had recently separated before her disappearance, reported her missing. The Sempell family harboured apprehensions about Stephanie's circle of acquaintances and had advised her against the Key West trip, but she proceeded regardless. In 1997, Stephanie's sister, Kim Quinn, residing in New York, took it upon herself to delve into the progress of her sister's case, only to stumble upon a shocking revelation. To her dismay, it became apparent that there was no official record of a missing persons report ever being filed for Stephanie. Consequently, no connection was established between Stephanie's disappearance and the discovery of Jane Doe, which occurred 9 months after she vanished. This oversight meant that Stephanie remained unidentified for over 28 agonising years. Despite clinging to hope for decades that Stephanie might still be out there somewhere alive, her family's optimism was shattered. They even sought assistance from psychics in their desperate quest for answers, but ultimately their hopes were dashed. After Stephanie's positive identification, her remains were returned to her grieving family. On November 8, 2004, which would have been her 44th birthday, a poignant memorial service was held at St. Henry's Church in Pompano Beach. Following this heartfelt ceremony, Stephanie was laid to rest at the Boca Raton Municipal Cemetery and Mausoleum. Despite the bittersweet closure of finally locating Stephanie's remains, her family continues to grapple with unanswered questions, their search for closure persisting. To date, the circumstances surrounding Stephanie's demise remain shrouded in mystery, and the responsible party for her untimely death remains unknown. Authorities strongly believe her death was likely a homicide. Despite thorough questioning of individuals who were acquainted with Stephanie, including her friends and family, investigators have been unable to definitively determine who she was travelling to Key West with on the day she was last seen alive. Those who were last seen with Sempell may hold vital information crucial to bringing her killer to justice. Authorities emphasise the importance of anyone with even the slightest information, no matter how insignificant it may seem, to come forward. Every detail, no matter how small, could prove pivotal in cracking this case. Major Crimes Detective Sergeant Patricia Daly said in a statement regarding this tragic case, "Somebody knows her and knows what happened to her back in 1976. We want that person, or those people, to call us. A young girl lost her life, and both she and her family deserve to have some type of explanation for that. We'd like to give it to them." The Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit is currently handling Stephanie Sempell's case. Anyone possessing information pertinent to this investigation is urged to contact 305-289-2410. If you wish to remain anonymous, alternatively, you can contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-346-TIPS.